In the beginning, there isn't glory, there isn't a sprawling naval empire or a world-shaping military. There's only a map, a few choices, and a vision. Today, we enter the genesis phase of our Portuguese empire. This is where the foundation is created. Every click here is a calculated step toward the power we need to survive the challenges that are awaiting us. This is Straight Up Strategy. How's it, everyone, and welcome back to Straight Up Strategy. Today, this is episode 2 of Portugal's EU5 campaign. In the last episode, we covered all of the fundamentals, the geographic constraints and incentives behind Portugal's drive at this point. If you haven't seen that, I would encourage you to go back and watch that video because it gives a good understanding about what problems we have and what issues we're facing going forward. Today, however, we're going to kick things off and actually get the game rolling. One of the self-imposed rules that I think I'm going to implement is once we unpause the game, there's no option to re-pause the game. There are a couple of events that fire that automatically pause the game, and the approach to that will be to deal with the event, and then the game will restart again and carry on rolling. We do, of course, have the option to increase and decrease speed. So particularly at the start here, we'll start on speed 1 because there's a lot of things to do. But the idea really is to encourage a realistic and immersive playthrough rather than stopping time and spending an enormous amount of mental brain power figuring out the most optimal strategy going forward. It's not to say that I'm going to jump to a massively fast speed and rush through the game. That's again not the driver behind this series, but I would like to feel a certain sense of urgency behind the playthrough. Second thing that I just wanted to mention is the current patch. Whilst this playthrough is irrespective of patches and hopefully isn't going to get broken by the upcoming patch, I am playing on 1.0.11, which amongst the player base appears to be a relatively negative patch, causes the AI to be very aggressive, etc. We have got a new big patch on the horizon in 1.1 in about 2 weeks, 1.5 to 2 weeks or so, and there is the potential that could break the save. I'm hoping not, of course, and if it doesn't, we'll just carry on playing, but it might be that there's a few new mechanics or things that change between those patch notes, at which point we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it, really. So without further ado, let's get going. So I'm going to bring us down to speed 1, and before we take any action, let's unpause the game. So things are going to happen now, so it's really important that I'm somewhat efficient. First thing I think I'm going to do is make our son and heir our general. Got a new market in Stockholm, so not super important for us. We're going to get the Navy patrolling the seas. That's just to help with the maritime presence here. The reason for putting our heir as our general is because when looking at the crown power here, we can see that we get a 25% bonus because of our son and heir being in command. We can also do that with our ruler, but having looked at it, the shift for, I think it's defensive. Is it defensive? It's conciliatory, actually. Our heir as a general, it's -0.05. With our heir as a ruler, it's -0.10. So this is slightly better for us at this point in time. Okay, let's have a look at the top panel, as this will influence early decision making. So we are close to being the target of a jihad. That's because we have a bigger than 5% Islam population within our country. So first things first that we're going to want to do is start converting our population. We're going to do that by getting 2 cabinet members in our parliament or our cabinet. Okay, so neither of them are very good, to be honest, but we may as well just put them both in for now. So Alexio, I don't know how you say that. I'm guessing it's Alexio, something like that, and Raimundo. So we'll put them both in. Religious conversion efforts are primarily to do with military stats, so we'll take the better of the two, and we'll have a look at the place that's the least converted, Extremadura, which also includes our capital, so that's probably going to be the most important one to start with. Secondly, what can we do with Raimundo? So he's best at Diplo. So let's have a look at what Diplo things we might want to do. Change societal value, might not be a bad one. We start pushing centralization. I think that's probably a good idea, just to start increasing our crown power over time. We'll have to keep an eye on that, because once the crown power starts to increase, particularly above that 25%, then we may consider shifting him to something else. Okay, so that's dealt with. Pops with needs. We'll come back to this, but there are a few needs within the Lisbon market that we need to look to address, particularly fruit. Our adult heir is unmarried, so Pedro is not married. So, is there anyone that we might want to marry? A marriage with England? Not a bad idea, you know. That could be a good way to try and get an alliance. I know last episode we said France, but I'm definitely not going to scoff at the chance at a potential marriage with England. So I think we're going to go for that. Her stats are okay as well. I'm not 100% certain if it works like Crusader Kings 3, whereby the stats influence the ability of the child, but you know, we'll have to see, I suppose. We get a bit of prestige from that, and helps to increase our trust and opinion, etc. So I think that's good. We want to be conscious of getting too close to England just at the start, because obviously the 100 Years' War kicks off very, very soon. I don't want to get involved, as I said in the first episode, in any extra or intercontinental wars, so we are going to avoid that for now. Unprofitable buildings, we'll have a look at in a second. This is the truce that's coming to an end. So Morocco have declared rivals. You know what, buddy? We'll do the same, right back at you. I can't remember how to do that now. So I think it's in diplomatic. It's not a particularly great UI by way of efficiency, finding the right things easily. But yeah, Morocco can be addressed there. We can intervene in a war. Morocco, Tlemcen. Nah. When Castile get involved, we might get involved there. Possible opportunity to get a little bit of land in North Africa, pushing our naval range down towards the south. But for now, that's okay. Inefficient minting. This looks like it's broken. Maybe it'll tick through on the first month, because that doesn't look like it's working at all. Nobility we can't tax very well. Get a terrible amount of tax from them. That's not great. Same thing for the burghers. So if we... oh, gosh. So we're losing a tiny bit of money. I think we can reduce fort maintenance down a little bit for now. The main consequence of that, I believe, is that it impacts our... here we go. Prestige, garrison size, fort defense. So we don't really have to worry about it all too much for the minute, simply because prestige is going to be ticking down anyway. Garrison size doesn't matter, fort defense doesn't matter. It's unlikely that we are going to have any issues. And with that in mind, let's improve with Castile as well. So we've got another one diplomat by which to try and do something with. We've got a new market. I think this is in the Golden Horde, so it's not relevant to us. So technologies or research, organized religion. Religion plays a major role in every society. Not every faith has the same structure. Yeah, let's go for that. I mean, it's the only one that we can take at the moment. But max literacy, possible towns and clerics, this is going to help the conversion effort. Oh, hello. Hello. Castile's offered an alliance. Hell yeah. We'll take that, definitely. So all of our fears and worries can dissipate, and we can go and relax on a nice beach towards the south of our country, on the Med here. Maybe go in Faro and have a little rest, because Castile seems to want to be friends with us, so that's great. So it might mean that we get dragged into some of their wars, but to be honest, what we're going to try and do is keep them as friends throughout the playthrough. They're effectively going to be our cushion against anything going on, whilst we try and push outwards. So happy with that, really happy with that. So we're missing some inputs. So the Potter's Guild's missing some clay. Tar, I believe, is for the castle, okay, and for some naval supplies. Silver, jewellery, fine cloth. Clay is the main one that we're missing a bit, and I don't think we have any natural inputs for clay, so we're going to have to build it somewhere. So we'll have a look at that in just a second. Here you see we can build a clay pit. If we look at the most profitable, Santarém, just quickly have a look at how many people it employs. It employs 1,000. Have we got 1,000? So we've got 1,000 available in Lisbon. Okay, we'll build one in Lisbon, just for now. I'm not particularly keen on... if you see me flubbing through the map modes, it's because this game for some reason keeps undoing my key bindings, so I've had to change it a few times, and I can't remember which one's which now. So yeah, I'm not particularly keen on building rural type buildings within cities, etc., because over time you want to get urban buildings in urban locations and rural buildings in rural locations, but just by way of getting it up immediately so that we actually have the production of clay, we can do that. Our gold seems to be good. We've ticked over a month, so things are looking all right from that perspective. It's not too expensive, but we might want to drop the army maintenance down as well. We'll drop it halfway. We'll pay 1 gold. Navy will keep high because they're actually out and about and doing things. Not importing any food, which is great. I am debating with myself whether to turn on the automation for this. So the automation naturally drifts it to 50%, so it naturally drifts them to their equilibrium, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right place for it to be. Now what I'm worried about is not checking this very frequently and all of a sudden I've done the wrong thing. So you know what, I am going to turn this on. We can come back to it and make adjustments if necessary. So that's all good for now. So where were we? Clay we were looking at. All of these are less than 1 input good, so I'm not too concerned about that for the second. We have some Sunni zealots. We're obviously dealing with that through the conversion effort. Our navy lacks a commander. I think everyone's taken up, so we could put the king in. Do we do it? Okay. I'm a bit worried about it because it might risk him. I think there's a slightly heightened chance of someone getting hurt when they're out at sea. And our ruler's relatively good, particularly compared to our heir. In fact, you know what? I'm not going to do it. They can stay without a leader for now. Child can have better education. Leonor, she is gregarious, so she'll be better in Diplo. And she's also, okay, got a balanced education. So we may as well lean into Diplo with her. She is, of our children, she is the middle child, is that right? 24, 8, 17, no, she's the youngest. Maria. What does consort mean? She's married to a ruler. Who's she married to? She's married to the King of Spain. Okay, well that's good. That's obviously why we are so tied to them. Okay, so that's probably good. I mean, the worry there is that if they have a child, then there is a potential leadership struggle between the two of us, because our, what would that be? Our grandson would also have a right to the Portuguese throne. So probably not out of the woods now that I think about it. That's frustrating. We can ask for money. We can't yet because we don't have enough favors, so we're not going to do that for now. We can have 2 more countries as our rivals. So who should we rival? I mean, I think let's just take a geographic / religious approach. We're not happy with the North Africans because They don't believe in the right god, so let's get jiggy with them. Okay, so that wasn't as scary as I thought. I was really worried about playing through the original initial decisions with the time running. So the next thing we need to do is set up some trades. So we are going to get rid of our current trades. And we're going, come on man, I think you can. We're going to set some of our own trades up. So what is mostly needed? Fruit. So if we look at... So this is expensive. So fruit is really lacking in Iberia. They haven't got their lemons or oranges or whatever it is. So just going to have a quick look through some of these other markets, see if anything is particularly prevalent. Not really. So if we have a look here, you know what, first things first, let's actually increase, one of them. Don't want to do that because it's too low value. Now we could build a carpenter's guild, and we do have enough there. So yeah, I think it's definitely a good idea. That's quite useful. If we look at the province, have we got any lumber? We do. So I believe if we get some lumber in the same province, that should help to get a production bonus for goods that require a lumber as an input good. That's my understanding. So if we can look at some of these, and we'll probably just go directly by controls. Set to will 0.12, 0.10. I think that is directed due to the control. So we'll build a lumber mill here. Terrain is also decent. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I do play in the mornings before I go to work, so I'm going to have to stop here, and I'll cut in the next session. I'll splice them together, so see you in a second. I started filming and realised that I'd forgot to turn my recorder on, so I didn't get very far, fortunately, but let's kick back in. So what I said before was I realised when I'd left that I didn't actually do any of the trades. So before the next month ticks over, let's see if we can get some of the trades through. So population needs, the one I saw here was a good stockpile of legumes in Paris. So we might trade some of this. I think the balance we need is 2.2. So if we can up this to roughly 2, that should hopefully be profitable and consistent. Because you can look at some of these trades and say, oh, well, this is 3.96, let's get that. But if you see there's not a huge surplus in the FAS market, there's only 12. And in terms of the demand from FAS, they are matching supply versus demand. So we can give it a go. Let's see what happens and see if we can actually get it. But my understanding is when there's a low stockpile, they'll very quickly become unprofitable trades because we get outpriced in the market. Likewise for fruit, I know we have a shortfall of fruit, so even though it's not ideal and we'd be running a loss, let's see if we can get some of the fruit in the market, at least whilst we build up the wheat. The fruit. So at least whilst we're building up some of our own stockpiles, we can at least give our Portuguese people their much loved bananas and whatever. So looking across here, you can see most of them really are short on stockpile. So it's going to be difficult for us to get those in without it being an issue, I fear. Wool we don't need to worry about. So imports for profit. I mean, can we export anything? So again, we've got very low surpluses of exportable goods. It's weird that their price is so high even though they have a surplus. I don't know if this is exactly true. So yeah, looking through these, I'm not entirely sure whether we have that many profitable exports at the moment. Likewise for here, we've got a surplus, so even though we can import it and reduce the price, because the Parisian market has it cheaper, they are going to be using all of the goods that they have, so I don't think the trade will actually go through. I don't think it will work. What's this? Cotton? Is this cotton? Yes. So likewise, we don't have a demand for it, so I think that's probably okay for now. So building needs, let's have a look and see what we've got here. I mean, again, there's such a small difference that I'm not entirely sure if it's going to work, particularly because they're running a balance here. So, I mean, let's give it a go, see if it works. But look at what we're actually trading like nothing. So it looked like those trades went through. I'm not entirely sure whether it actually reduced the stockpile. I can't remember what the figure was. So the 100 Years' War has kicked. It's screaming in my ears. So, in the year 1337, tensions between the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of France have reached a breaking point. The long-standing disputes over territory and claims to the French throne have erupted into open hostilities, marking the beginning of the 100 Years' War. This is a situation that will exist here until it eventually resolves itself. Both nations are now preparing for a protracted conflict that will shape the destiny of Western Europe. The world watches on as these two great powers prepare for their inevitable clash on the battlefield. And this is a bit of historical flavour. So, long conflict from 1337 to 1453. English king claimed the French crown, arguing his right through his mother's bloodline. What followed was a prolonged on-and-off war filled with battles, betrayals and shifting alliances that dragged on for over a century and shifted the geopolitical landscape of all of Western Europe forever. This will hopefully be over quickly. Don't think that's true. So, yeah, it looks like the trade went through okay. So, can't up it anymore because they do not have enough surplus. So it might be that we can carry on and get a little bit of profit here. You see the profit per trade capacity, so it's actually proportioned down. So it is 4.29, but we're only actually getting 0.8 because we're not trading one full fine cloth. So a bit misleading, this figure, actually. What other trades might we wish to do? So I might switch to our market, have a look at what's in short supply and what we might import. So this is going to rise over time. Can we import it from anywhere? We can import it from the Burgos market. The supply is very low, 3.3, so it's not going to work, basically. So trading at the moment is going to be a bit difficult. We might need the game to run a couple of months in order to find their natural balance. But we can put through some trades and fine-tune it as we go through. So population needs, what sort of stuff do our people need? So Lisbon to Alexandria, there's no demand for gold, and there is a small demand for us. We'll give it a go, see if it works. I mean, we're not making much money at all from it, it's more to satisfy the needs of the people. Annoyingly, I did notice that the Sevilla markets actually banned the export of gold and silver, so I don't know if they have. Yeah, they've got some silver. Can't see easily if they have any gold. But anyways, we can't get it from them because they aren't very willing to share. So, what else could we do? So for now, we need 1.32, so let's get it from Paris. I was going to also, just quickly whilst I remember, I was going to improve opinion with France. We've still got one more, which we'll let tick up a little bit now. Go to our budget as well. Let's just have a look and see how much we're spending on Diplo. Might want to reduce this slightly. That's okay. So legitimacy we want to keep up. We might... No, it's a bit too expensive. So let's get it to plus half, roughly. Okay. And that will help the legitimacy up. That helps with the crown power. We've seen this tick over. Wow, we've gone all the way up to 29%. So that's great. That's great. So it means that the debuffs have turned into positive boons, which is awesome. So let's quickly go back to the trading, see if there's anything that we want to do. So suggested exports for profit. I mean, what we really want to do is start building a bit of an industry that our market doesn't use in its entirety, and then we can start exporting some of the goods. The question is, what's in high demand? Maybe in the more local markets. So fruit, pottery. Pottery might be one for us to look at. Pottery's low here as well, actually. Fruit, furniture. So furniture, we could try and really push into furniture, lean into that and start exporting the excess furniture. That's not a bad idea. So we have used a lot of our trade capacity. There's a little bit more that we might wish to take use of. I mean, what's the balance surplus here? So they're running a deficit. There is 21.9. So we'll try and nab it for now, but the likelihood is that that trade will become redundant over time. Okay, well let's export. Let's export some of our cattle. So that was in the Sevilla market, I think it was. Is that right? Quickly have a look. It's Barcelona actually, so it's this market here. So Barcelona, yeah, they're running a heavy deficit of livestock, so we might want to expand the livestock and see if we can start shifting some of those tasty cows across. So we'll wait for that to tick through. It shouldn't be too long. Next thing I want to look at is start improving some of our natural resources. So we are importing some legumes, so maybe we'd want to increase the profit here. You can see that that would be 1 gold, 1 ducat. So yeah, we can go ahead with that. The proximity is not too bad. Same thing for here, wine. See, it's very cheap. Wouldn't be a bad idea. I think long-term play, we have a advance. It's much later, but we have an advance that increases wine output, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to build it up so that when we do get that extra surge, we've got loads of wine and we can start exporting it. Horses, 1.46, so that's probably a good one to look at. If we look at the cost, this is what I was talking about before in terms of reduction in price. You can see that because we have a surplus of lumber, the base price of 50 is down by 33%, which is the full collapse. So it's worth expanding on some of these now. So we'll increase horses. What other things do we have here? Stone. Yeah, see, look, traders run out of supply. So which one was that? Fine cloth from Faz, saffron from Barcelona. So that's what I thought would happen. We can do the maximum that we can there. We might want to increase some of the livestock that we have. Have we got any livestock that's close? So we did talk about this one in terms of can't remember the button now. Yeah, so farmland. So we did talk about this one being a good food production, so we'll probably get good value for money by increasing the livestock here, even though it's not necessarily going to be a huge boost in terms of direct income, but we are going to try and expand downwards towards this place as well. So I'm happy to increase the livestock here as well, and then we might just sit on some of the extra gold just for a minute, because we want to ensure that we have a little bit of a buffer just in case things go pear-shaped. So if we look at our estates, rather at the taxation of our estates, so we've got it at 50% equilibrium. I think we might, we can't actually increase it any further, so that means really that they are more happy than what they should be. So we might want to do something about that. One of the other things that I did say I was going to do at the start was looking to get rid of something from the burghers, specifically this decentralization negative buff, because we're not happy with it. The reason for doing that really is because the burghers are hopefully going to get stronger and stronger. So let's bite the bullet, let's get rid of it. It's going to really, really irritate them. Put us slightly into negative stability, which isn't great, but we can give them something else that we do want. So building costs being cheaper, slightly clicked there really, because if I'd done this before I would have had a slight reduction in all of these buildings, but at least we're looking to do it now. Trade capacity is not bad. What else could we look at? Gold and silver is not really going to be a big deal because we don't have gold or silver. Guild investment's not bad. Might sort it by overall happiness. Market attraction's okay, but because the market's fully within, I think we're all right there. I think building rights is probably what we want to give them to start off with. So where does that leave them by way of satisfaction? We might want to give them one other thing. It does irritate the nobility, but being under 30 is quite negative, and it gives us quite a crappy trade disadvantage, looks like. Can we survive with the nobility being really irritated for a couple of months? I'm not sure. So we might just leave it for now. We do need to come back to this and try and give them some extra privileges. We could bribe them. That might get them up to 20, so that get them up to 35. I don't really want to use my money to bribe them if I can avoid it, but that is always an option. So we've started to really set everything up at the baseline, and I think we're making a bit of good progress. So we might want to have a look at some of these unprofitable buildings. One of the things that I did think I was going to have a play around with is turning off automation. Now again, this might be a bad idea, so I might have to turn it back on. But if we look at tools, we look at the goods, so it's using iron. So we could either use iron, we could either use stone, or we could use a combination of tin and copper. And you can see the outputs are significantly different depending on what resource we use. So we probably want to stick with iron. It's the only one that's profitable at the moment. And by that logic, we might also want to increase the amount of iron that we have here, because it is quite expensive, and that would be quite useful, I think. So let's increase the cost of iron, or increase our iron production. I accidentally paused there. What else have we got going on? So if we look at our buildings, so this I think uses clay. You can see that most of them are unprofitable, and the reason that they're unprofitable is because the output isn't worth the input. So lumber is cheap, tools, I'll have to check. I think it's clay. That's not very good. So if we look at clay in Lisbon, we have more supply than demand, but we are importing it. We do have a balance, so to be honest, I'm not entirely sure why it's so poor. I think it's just simply because we don't have that much being produced. But by logic, clay in our market, not clay rather, is it pottery? Pottery in our market should be going up in price. So this might actually correct itself over time because there's a shortfall. So I think that's not anything to worry about just for now. So I think at the moment we're doing all right. We're not making much money at all, so we do probably need to think about how to either increase the level of tax we get or decrease the expenditure we have. Diplo spending I'm happy with, even though it's a bit expensive. Fort maintenance is still quite expensive, so we might want to have a look at what forts we want to get rid of. The return of barter. As our nation continues to engross itself further in traditional economics, a significant shift can be observed in the everyday transactions of the commoners. Bartering, the practice of directly trading goods without an intermediary, means such as coinage has greatly surged in popularity. I misread that. An intermediary means bloody hell, this is a wordful. Bartering, the practice of directly trading goods without an intermediary means such as coinage, has greatly surged in popularity. While this resurgence undermines the influence of the burghers and the crown, it has led to a greater degree of local economic activity and stability within our rural settlements. So that doesn't sound very good for us. Enforce the use of coinage, so we lose inflation. Commoners get really annoyed. I think that's okay though, to be honest. We get trade advantage, we move towards capital. Yeah, I think it's okay. We're gonna force people to use coinage because we want to start pushing these values towards our ideal goals, which is capital economy. We want to strengthen the burghers and so on. So let's have a look at some of the forts. I'm not really happy with two forts being right next to each other. So I think we're going to get rid of the one in Elvas, because this one has better coverage compared to this one. So Evora will still cover this. It means they can get in here, but Porto Alegre will still block this area. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So we can get that. Get rid of that fort. So that has reduced our maintenance by a little bit. We've got two forts here as well. Do we want to get rid of another fort? Lisbon we definitely need to keep because of it being our capital. Santarém. I like the fact that it's an extra buffer, to be honest. We'll keep that as a maybe. I mean, Vigna, we might be able to get rid of this one as well. I'm not entirely sure how much extra benefit it provides. Okay, let's get rid of this one as well. It does leave us a bit more exposed on the northern flank, which isn't ideal of course, but given that Castile at the moment are friends with us, it's okay for us to justify that reduction. It does immediately benefit us by reducing the cost of the expenditure, the cost of our forts, etc. So that's okay. So we probably want to look to see if we can do anything else to increase goods, market access, etc. So I'm just going to start working my way through this. I'll probably start cutting this out because this will be boring for those of you who don't care about the nitty-gritty, but I'll start having a look through these and seeing if there's any opportunities to make us more efficient, etc. So a lot of these only have one production method, I notice. I wonder if that's because of the fact that they are basic industries. If we look at consumer goods, this one doesn't either. This one does though. Okay, so we can see here, so gold and silver all. So we'll pick gold and we'll pick gems for now. It's very poorly highlighted actually. I thought this was two distinct production methods, but in fact, when you click into it, you actually have, let's actually look at it a different way. When we click into it, you can see that the base production is this, and then we have an enhancement. Now the reason I've picked gold over silver is, why have I picked that? I suppose let's have a look and see whether we can get easy access to gold and or silver. So we have a good access to gold, so we'll probably continue importing gold and using that to support the jewelry guilds. Can we get silver? Is it possible? So there's not a lot of supply of silver actually. So I think we've done the right thing by prioritizing gold. I'm hoping at some point when Castile realise that they don't have to hoard their gold, they might be willing to share some of that. I think in fact they actually have silver rather than gold, but same principle applies. If they're willing to share some of that, then that will benefit us in the long term. Okay, so we'll watch this tick over and then we might actually be able to go up to speed 2 and just slowly start moving forward. Gosh, speed 1 is very slow, isn't it? I've got nothing to worry about in terms of falling behind in terms of pace. I'm going to speed 2 now. So making a small amount of profit. Cost of buildings is quite high. What buildings are expensive? Go to our budget. You can see our expenses on buildings. It's the cathedrals that are quite expensive. Now why are they expensive? They need glass. Glass is quite expensive. Cloth is quite expensive. Fine cloth is expensive. So Can we build anything to start producing fine cloth? I think probably makes sense. We don't have anything by way of doing that at the moment. And in terms of cost, yeah, so Lisbon is where we're going to probably focus our efforts just in the beginning because it's our capital. It's got good control because it's the capital, and it's got a surplus of burghers as well. I think we can support 2 constructions at the same time. So what other locations? So Santarém is well connected and has a few extra burghers, so we might want to build up here as well. If we look at what's most profitable, so Tailor's Guild again, expensive. Jeweller's Guild is decent. Now Jeweller's Guild I'm happy to build here, even though the Tailor's Guild is obviously more profitable. I think the fact that we don't have any access to gold, etc., means that we're always going to have to import it. I don't think there's a big difference between the two, but obviously we're trying to diversify. We built a Tailor's Guild here. Over time, by building more levels on the same location, you get production efficiencies. So the hope really is that by doing that we will have a more diverse economy and getting more efficiency across the board. So do we have any, before we do that, do we have any Jeweller's Guild already? Oh, we do actually have one in Lisbon already. Okay. So have we got any locations that are near the wool? So Evora is in the same province as the wool. So Evora we can actually build the Tailor's Guild because it's going to use wool. It's going to produce slightly less than the other methods, but it's going to have a production bonus. 0.8 for 0.5, 1 to 0.5. Weird. Okay, so we will... Now we got a Spinner's Guild already. So if we look at the Spinner's Guild, are we getting a production bonus? We are, look, because we're getting 10% because there's wool in Alto Alentejo. So we can either build upon this, or we can also start to build the Tailor's Guild as well. I think that probably makes sense, and we're starting to run out of money now. So pottery is low, furniture is low, which we're dealing with, fruit is low, which we're dealing with, tar, and masonry. So masonry is something that we'll need to address. So let's see if we can build a mason somewhere. And where might be the best place to build that because there's a shortfall. Oops. So the most profitable place overall is Lisbon. I don't want to build rural buildings, sorry, in Lisbon, although we do get, because we've got stone. So I wonder if we could build stone here, a mason here. Oh, we can't afford it. Brilliant. Okay. So the next problem that we are facing is the fact that even though we are increasing these RGOs, our people are seemingly too uneducated to pick fruit off a tree. Not entirely sure how that works, but over time we'll see that it is increasing. Not entirely sure how or why it doesn't promote so quick. Oh, it's actually to do with the lack of control. There's a reduction due to the lack of control. Okay, so we do want to start to increase the control in the lower provinces here. You can see that the horses that we've just built here, similar story, increasing by 8 per month. Livestock here, increasing by 4 per month. So it might have been unwise to expand in areas where we don't have much control because it's going to take them a while for them to get fully occupied or fully employed, but at least we have started to expand upon our initial industry. So let's have a mess around and see if we can export some fish. Is it possible for us to export fish, and how that might look? So if we look at our trading, and we reduce something that's not making a lot of money. So it actually is starting to turn a profit now, so that's sensible to do that. And if we look at our fish and we say, okay, well, how much could we realistically export it for? So there's a shortfall in Bordeaux, so we could actually export to Bordeaux and make a bit of money, and it's rising in price. So how much is the shortfall at 7? Let's do that for now. It might be that we need to increase that even. I'm going to wrap it up now, just because I had a quick look at how long I've been recording. It's getting close to 50 minutes now. So let's wrap this first episode up. A year's progress is past. We can, however, start to look to speed up the game in the second episode, start to progress a little bit more as we become a bit more familiar with what we're dealing with. As always, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you are excited to carry on watching this series, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye bye.